welcome to the Economist in Your Ear podcast. Have you ever found yourself piecing together a story from, fragments of information, wondering if the official narrative is truly the complete picture? Or if maybe there's a more intricate truth waiting to be uncovered, sort of beneath the surface? Today we're diving into a fascinating new chapter in the ongoing saga of the Epstein files, and specifically how it's currently shaking up the political landscape, particularly around former President Donald Trump. We're not just going to recount the headlines. We're taking the Economist's recent perspective and then really unpacking it, challenging its assumptions, maybe weaving in crucial context it might have overlooked, and exploring what this all truly signifies for how we understand power and, well, information.
Yeah, and what's truly compelling here isn't just the latest headline itself, but the remarkable way a powerful narrative, one that was once designed to target external opponents, can surprisingly boomerang. It forces us to ask a pretty crucial question, I think. What happens when a movement's own conspiratorial energy starts to turn inward, upon itself?
Okay, right. Let's unpack the Economist's central argument then. They suggest that the Epstein-related conspiracy talk, which for so long was a powerful weapon for the Imaginee movement to wield against Democratic elites, has quite unexpectedly ricocheted right back onto Donald Trump. Think back to the intense anticipation that was built up around these files.
Absolutely. The article really does set the scene for that expectation. People were anticipating something, well, dramatic, almost a cinematic unveiling.
Exactly. For months, maybe even years, Imaginee influencers, people like Elon Musk and Senator-elect J.D. Vance, had been building this narrative, this intense expectation, the idea that a Trump-led Justice Department would be the one to finally unseal these long-awaited files that they believed would expose a client list of powerful abusers and conspirators. The promise was always this big definitive reveal.
Yeah, the moment that would justify all the suspicion about a shadowy elite. And this is where the narrative takes that fascinating turn. Because then came the moment of truth, so to speak. Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel produced, what was ultimately described as a rather bland memo.
Just a memo.
It simply stated that based on their findings, Epstein left no client list. This wasn't the smoking gun, not the grand expose everyone was primed for.
Right, not the curtain being pulled back. And for those deeply entrenched in that conspiratorial mindset, this perceived failure to deliver didn't lead to a conclusion of, I guess there's nothing there. Oh, right. No, quite the opposite. Instead, it ingeniously folded back on the messenger. Mm-hmm. The conclusion for many became, the cover-up must now include Trump himself. If he truly had the power, if he was really committed to exposing the deep state, why didn't he unleash this information? This unexpected pivot is precisely what The Economist highlights as, a significant moment.
And you can actually see this shift reflected in some truly surprising polling data. A recent YouGov The Economist poll reveals that majorities in both parties now believe the government is hiding something about Epstein. We're talking 83% of Democrats, which, you might expect given historical distrust. But here's the kicker. A striking 52% of Republicans now hold that same belief.
52%. Wow.
More than half of Trump's own party expressing this kind of sentiment.
That 52% Republican figure is, frankly, it's astounding. What does that percentage really tell us about the strength of this boomerang effect you mentioned?
Well, that 52% is crucial because it suggests a significant portion of Trump's own base is now susceptible to these narratives. Narratives that directly question his actions, his authority, maybe even his commitment to the very deep state expose they were promised. It signifies a potential crack, in what was previously a seemingly unshakable narrative control. Historically, it's been difficult for this kind of conspiratorial energy to genuinely penetrate the core of his support like this. So, yeah, it's a noteworthy development. It implies a level of disillusionment or maybe suspicion that wasn't quite so apparent before within his most loyal followers.
But okay, as we dig deeper, we uncover some really important context and maybe some crucial details that The Economist didn't fully highlight, which offer a much more nuanced view of what's really happening here. Let's start with Pam Bondi's unusual legal move on July 18th. She asked a federal judge to unseal portions of 2019 grand jury testimony. Now, for those unfamiliar, grand jury testimony is typically sacrosanct. It's kept secret for good reason.
Very good reasons. Protecting witnesses, encouraging candor, safeguarding investigations, especially with sensitive stuff.
Exactly. It's not something you just casually ask to make public.
And this aggressive legal gambit by Bondi, you could argue, implicitly signals that she doesn't possess the smoking gun she and others might have teased to the public. If she had that definitive proof, right, she probably wouldn't need a judge to unseal highly protected documents. This move, ironically, may have only reinforced the skepticism among those Maga influencers who were already wary. It almost feels like a public admission that the proof they sought wasn't there, or at least not easily accessible, a maneuver.
And this is where the disconnect becomes really stark, because we also have official findings on record. The DOJ and FBI released a comprehensive review on July 7th, stemming from an extensive investigation into Epstein's death. This report explicitly blamed his death on egregious Bureau of Prisons failures, pointing to systemic issues, not some vast conspiracy. Crucially, the report stated they found no evidence of a client blackmail network and no tampering with surveillance footage.
Right. Unequivocally undercutting the premise of suppressed evidence.
So if official findings directly contradict the underlying innuendo, why does public belief in a cover-up persist so strongly?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? That same Economist YouGov poll found that only a mere 10% of adults, regardless of party, trust the DOJ's new report. 10%. It tells us something pretty profound about the current information ecosystem, I think. That facts, even from official sources, really struggle to displace a deeply held belief, especially when those beliefs are fueled by distrust of institutions and, importantly, amplified by powerful figures. The story, it seems, can be more compelling than the findings.
That truly does make you wonder about the nature of truth in our modern discourse. And this brings us to the outsized role of figures like Elon Musk. His influence in shaping these narratives is anything but casual. His ex-post, "How can people trust Trump if he won't release the Epstein files?" was viewed an astonishing 38 million times. 38 million.
That reach is just immense.
Think about the amplification of just a single question coming from someone with that kind of influence.
Yeah, it wasn't just idle chatter, some random comment. It felt like a carefully aimed arrow. It directly spiked Google searches for Epstein files, demonstrating its immediate impact on public curiosity and engagement. You could see the spike. And it's worth noting, as The Economist does, that Musk has his own very public and ongoing feud with Trump over things like tariffs, federal contracts.
Right. There's history there.
Exactly. This adds an extra edge to his accusation, making it more than just a passing comment. It feels like a strategically placed, high-impact broadside from a powerful figure with his own agenda, potentially looking to undermine a political rival while also tapping into that pre-existing vein of public suspicion.
Okay, so The Economist makes some pretty bold claims about what this all means for Trump's political standing. And here's where it gets really interesting as we assess those claims. For instance, the article suggests Trump usually embraces his allies and their narratives, but maybe not this time. And there's certainly some truth to that. He publicly labeled Epstein posting Republicans weaklings at a rally on July 17th. That's a surprisingly rare public rebuke of his own base, isn't it? A base he usually showers with praise.
It is rare, but this isn't as clear-cut as The Economist might imply, is it? Because the very next day, Trump also dangled fresh disclosures. He hinted that there's still more to come on the Epstein front. He told Newsmax, for example, that there were a lot of surprises in the files, implying he was still on the case.
Okay. So rebuke one day, promise the next.
Exactly. This apparent contradiction, telling his base they're weaklings while simultaneously promising future revelations, that's classic Trump crisis management, isn't it? It's a tactical flip-flop designed to keep all options open.
So it's not a definitive break, but more a strategic maneuver. How does that tactical approach work? How does it manage different audiences simultaneously? What's the subtle messaging there?
Well, it allows him to simultaneously try to, but perhaps rein in certain elements of his base who might be seen as getting a bit ahead of the skis or distracting from his broader message, while also reassuring others that he's still on their side, that the grand conspiracy is still out there, and that he's the one who will eventually deliver the truth. It's a method of maintaining narrative control even when the immediate facts don't quite align with the grander promises. He's saying one thing to those pushing too hard, maybe, while winking at those who want to continue believing in the conspiracy. It's a complex tightrope walk that, frankly, he's mastered over time.
That's a powerful observation. The article also implied that the Epstein chatter rivaled talk about major issues like inflation or Iran. And while Google Trends did confirm a significant two-day spike, reaching near parity with inflation searches, the volume of interest plummeted by half within just a week.
Right. And this helps us put the true scale of this crisis into perspective. It gained rapid, intense attention, yes, absolutely. But it didn't hold that attention for very long. So the attention window, that moment of peak public obsession, may have been significantly narrower than the article suggests. It was more of an intense but ultimately fleeting media flare-up rather than a sustained narrative that genuinely overshadowed core economic or foreign policy concerns for most people. The public, it seems, moved on relatively quickly.
That makes sense. The Economist then posits that this whole affair kind of previews potential post-Trump Magier instability. An interesting theory, certainly. But what does history tell us about such internal rifts within the Republican base? Have we seen this before?
It's a plausible theory, absolutely. The potential is there. However, history offers a bit of a cautionary tale here. We've seen prior internal rifts within the Republican base. Think about the significant disagreements over, say, the Syria troop pullout during his presidency, or the heated debates around vaccine policy. These were contentious issues. They definitely divided parts of the base. But ultimately, they failed to really dent Republican electoral cohesion in any lasting way. The party usually recoalesces, especially when it's time to face an external opponent. So whether this Epstein-related infighting becomes a truly durable schism, something that fundamentally reshapes the movement, it really depends on if high-profile influencers like Nick Fuentes, Pam Bondi, J.D. Vance, and others continue hammering the theme and keeping that outrage meter pegged once the current news cycle inevitably fades. If it's just a momentary outrage, a two-week tempest, it's unlikely to cause a lasting fracture.
Okay, so moving beyond the immediate political drama, what does this whole complex situation truly mean for you, the listener, and for the broader landscape of our information and legal systems? Let's first talk about what we're calling the governance risks, stemming from Pam Bondi's push to break grand jury secrecy. This isn't just a legal technicality, is it?
No, not at all. It's a profound concern for legal scholars, and frankly, it should be for everyone. Grand jury proceedings are kept secret for very good reasons, protecting the innocent, encouraging witnesses to speak freely without fear of retribution, ensuring the integrity of investigations, particularly when dealing with sensitive and potentially reputation-damaging material. If this precedent is set, if sealed testimony can be routinely weaponized for political gain by future administrations, just imagine the implications. It opens the door for political fishing expeditions into private lives, or for testimony to be cherry-picked and selectively leaked to serve a particular narrative. It fundamentally undermines the judicial process and could lead to a chilling effect on anyone cooperating with a grand jury in the future. It chips away at a fundamental pillar of our legal system's integrity.
Yeah, that's a serious point. And this raises that critical question about the sustainability of perpetual outrage and the long-term impact of unfulfilled promises on audience trust.
Exactly. For right-leaning audiences, who've been consistently primed for these drops, remember the anticipation around the Durham report. Many believed that would expose vast conspiracies, or the long-awaited JFK files, which many hoped would reveal new truths. And now the Epstein files. A repeated cycle of unfulfilled bombshells might lead to what we're calling conspiracy fatigue. This isn't just about cynicism towards established institutions, which is already high. It's a potentially underanalyzed dynamic, cynicism toward their own Maga gatekeepers. What happens when the well of promised revelations runs dry? Do these audiences disengage? Or do they seek new narratives, new gatekeepers who can deliver? It points to a potential crisis of credibility within the very ecosystem that fuels these narratives.
That's a fascinating and potentially profound shift to watch out for. And finally, let's consider the 2026 midterm optics. On the surface, this infighting within the GOP offers a tempting opportunity for Democrats, right? They can use it to paint Republican leadership as chaotic, in disarray, consumed by internal squabbles. Provides a ready-made narrative.
It does. It could be used to mobilize their base, certainly. However, there's a significant risk here, too. Over-focusing on the, let's say, lurid details of Epstein-related talk might alienate a crucial segment of swing voters. These are the voters who are typically more concerned with tangible cost-of-living issues, inflation, the economy, everyday struggles, rather than what they might perceive as esoteric internal political drama or celebrity-adjacent scandals. While it might energize a segment of the Democratic base, if it comes across as out of touch with the everyday concerns of the broader electorate, it could backfire, could be seen as a distraction from what truly matters to many families. It's a very fine line to walk in political messaging.
Ultimately, The Economist is right in one crucial respect. The Epstein saga, particularly this latest twist, certainly exposes cracks in what was once Trump's almost lockstep coalition, the new DOJ findings, Pam Bondi's aggressive courtroom maneuver, and Elon Musk's incredibly powerful megaphone. They really did turn a right-wing obsession into a kind of circular firing squad, at least for a moment.
For a moment, yes. However, history cautions us against predicting a lasting schism too quickly. Republican unity, particularly in the face of external opposition, has this remarkable tendency to recongeal once the immediate news cycle moves on. Whether the Epstein files become Trump's genuine kryptonite, something that irrevocably damages his standing, or just another two-week tempest in the political teapot, really depends on what, if anything, Pam Bondi's unsealing motion actually reveals, and critically, on how long those high-profile influencers choose to keep that outrage meter pegged. The energy required to sustain such a high-intensity narrative is immense, and eventually, public attention tends to drift.
And that leaves us with a final thought to ponder as you navigate the complex world of information and politics today. In an era saturated with competing narratives, what truly shapes our collective beliefs and political loyalty? Is it the undeniable smoking gun of evidence that ultimately sways opinion? Or is it simply the relentless, persistent drumbeat of a compelling story, even one full of, well, contradictions? Think about what this means for how you consume information, where you place your trust, and how you discern truth from narrative in the years to come. We encourage you to continue exploring these complex dynamics on your own,